All right. I basically have only spent the day so far working on that stupid Bluetooth stuff that I was stuck on. Managed to make some progress. It was really good. It's been really encouraging. Even though it's not complete, I did manage to have a breakthrough. I think a lot of that was from just that thinking yesterday and shifting that mentality of like, I think I had some expectations of being able to get things through and done over with faster than they will take. And I think just reestablishing those expectations helped me handle it a hell of a lot better today from just a mental kind of perspective. And so that means that work was a lot more productive. I just went through it for a couple hours in the morning. It was pretty good. Then I had lunch, went to the gym, came back, had a call with my assistant, had a job interview, client called me for a little bit. Now I'm going to head back to the development work and try and figure that out. I'm just fully focused on like, if there's one thing I do today, it's just that one piece of work that's been a block for a while now. Also, just been thinking a lot about, I've felt that I've made a lot more progress when I let go of GPT, because GPT will box you, like it's really good for a lot of things, but it will box you into a certain type of answers. And, maybe this changes in the future when AI gets a lot better and whatever else. But for the time being, I actually think very quickly, and I think a lot of this happens to a lot of people, but I grew reliant on GPT, and if GPT didn't know how to do something, it became a huge pain in my ass. Whereas, if before that, I figured everything out by myself, and there was that mentality that, when I was 14, I built this entire backend in PHP for the first time ever. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. No formal training, zero computer science lessons, like just absolutely zero clue what I was doing. But I managed to figure out how to make a PHP backend that sent you verification emails, got you verified. Only once you were verified could you log in. It had an in-credit system. You could send things around, like all of that. And I had zero context, and I figured that all off the back of Googling and stuff like that. And so, I know it's possible. It's just been readjusting back to like, okay, this is what I have to go back to. That's been a really good little shift that I had in my mind, and I just made sure that clicked before I went back into things. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to touch GPT because GPT hasn't been able to figure it out, and so it's no use to keep going back to it. And yeah, that's unlocked a lot of progress. So I'm gonna head back to work on that. Hopefully get that done and dusted with, and have some other things to think and talk about. A lot of other stuff that I want to do, but I cannot lose that focus on this particular task until it's done. And so I'm 100% zeroed in on it for the time being. I mean, I had to interrupt it for the gym, for the interview that was scheduled, my assistant call. I have to do that on a daily basis, and the client, who obviously has to call me, if he asks, I can spare a little bit of time, absolutely. But other than that, I'm trying to not spend any of my discretionary time that I can work on whatever I want. I'm going to double down on this for the time being. So even video wise, I want to record some more stuff. Just not going to happen while this is not done and dusted. This is the singular most important task, to unblock a lot of stuff. So that's the situation for the time being. Yeah. It's been a pretty long day, but still haven't solved the issue that I was having with the app. But I had this, so after those calls, I went back to look at things. Then I had a bit of a brief interruption because I had a call that was already scheduled beforehand with a friend, and I wasn't bothered to reschedule stuff from scratch and whatnot. And so that happened. And it was a really good chat. This is a friend of mine who's this machine learning engineer. He's in San Francisco at the moment. I think he's an incredibly smart guy. I think, like, when I say incredibly smart, not just in a technical sense, he's incredibly capable. So, like, he's a very capable engineer. But beyond that, I think just as a person, I think he's very good at, like, ignoring status games and things like that, which is a trap that most people fall into. I think the way he thinks is incredibly clear-minded and stuff. And we had a pretty good conversation about seasons of sampling and seasons of focus. If you've ever read Range, I think it's an incredibly good book by David Epstein. That's unrelated to Jeffrey Epstein, I believe. But that book, Range, taught me a lot about just the value of like sampling and working across different things and trying out a lot of different kind of ventures and tastes of different options that you have, essentially. Gotta get rid of these ums and ahs. This is definitely a focus at the moment. Now, resuming kind of what I was saying, the book is incredibly good at highlighting the value of generalists, but also there's definitely a value of focus, of niching down and stuff like that. Now, I think most people get caught up, and I had a friend actually just DM me about it, this old friend from school who was like, how do you start out niche down, you know? Because it's kind of saying like, this is what I do, take it or leave it. And then you close off so many opportunities and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's this like super common fallacy, especially among young people, one that I've been victim of so many times, that in niching down, you lose opportunities, and effectively you do. But you basically open up the possibility to create far more value and effectively get a lot farther. You open the opportunity to generate like way more value, even if it's in a more specific area. And you get so much further. I think that's both in business and personal context, as in like career context, professionally. And then there are also things where niching doesn't make sense. So for example, if coding is your thing, niching probably makes sense. However, if you just want to communicate with more of the world, you don't need to learn every language and get a literature degree for you to move on to the next one. Like niching in that sense really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you learn 80% of French, 80% of English, 80% Spanish, you're good enough to speak in 3 different languages, which is a whole of a lot more useful than being able to write poems and books and whatnot in just one of them, unless literature is your thing and you're a writer, in which case obviously that's kind of your goal. Or you study linguistics or something like that. So there's times where niching makes sense and going super deep, other times that it doesn't. But I think for most people, they have trouble just sticking to one thing out of FOMO. I think social media has made that a whole lot worse because it makes you want to do a million different things at once. You want to start these 3 new businesses, a couple side hustles on the side, also do day trading because that's definitely a great idea. And then also, start learning like 6 new languages, start a couple new sports too while you're at it. And learn some instruments because those are, super crucial too. So just, it has you kind of want to do everything, it floods you with opportunities, and it basically overstimulates, I think, to some point. And I think sometimes it's pretty useless. Like to some extent, it's really useful because you have access to information that previously obviously wasn't possible, but too much stimulation is also unproductive because it just leaves your mind spinning in circles. That's been my experience, at least. So yeah, I think I recommend focus as a tool for pretty much any young person, at least in my experience, that has been the case. And that doesn't matter whether you're a business person, an athlete, a musician, or you just want to work a really good corporate job, which is also a good career path, by the way. People seem to shit on that nowadays, but it's not that bad. You have company dinners, company everything. Like the one thing that unifies all of those is focus and dedication to make it happen. Now, it doesn't mean you can't switch your niche. You can start somewhere and then change. Like I met this guy who went straight into Microsoft from this uni, who's like, the uni's not super known, nothing crazy, but he just knows his security stuff super well because he's into it. And that did it for him, because he was niche down. So, and now he's not in security. He's a software dev at a much smaller company because he realized he didn't actually like Microsoft that much. And he didn't, he just evolved out of security. And that's perfectly fine. A niche doesn't lock you in. In many ways, it opens doors. It's just you have to pick a door to go through first, right? Imagine a room with like 100 doors. I think that's what social media does, right? It's like you're in this room that's usually relatively dark, and you pick a door and you walk through it, and that's your initial niche. And you can then turn around and walk back out. The thing that social media did, I think, was basically it illuminated the entire room, and it turns out there's thousands of doors. And what it has left young people feeling like doing is walking in one door and then going in the other and then going in the other and then going in the other, and then flip back to the first one. And then, And I think that's it's good to find out maybe a little bit of what's possible, but too much of that and you don't get super far. But anyway, that's just something that we talked about. I enjoyed talking a lot about, something I think about a lot. But I'm gonna go home, eat dinner, probably crack another Red Bull, and keep going after this stupid Bluetooth stuff, which is driving my head in. But I have no other option, so that's what I'm gonna go do.